Greetings. I'm now in the home stretch of the reassembly of my grandfather's Waltham pocket watch. After I installed a new alloy mainspring, I continued the lubrication and reassembly of the watch. I expected it would be smooth sailing from then on. What else could go wrong? Well, a lot actually. I've encountered an unexpected serious problem that, like the mainspring installation, will take me into uncharted waters. First off, I'm using these lubricants in the reassembly. One comment about Mobius 9415. I'm using it and not Mobius 941, even though this has a low frequency balance. My lubricants come from a repackaged micro set of lubricants that I bought on eBay, and 9415 was in the set. So 9415 it is, even though it's overkill. 9415 is magical, by the way, because it has stress and time-dependent viscosity. It's a grease. No, it's an oil. Hey, it's back to being a grease again. All based on the forces applied to it. How did chemists dream this stuff up? Anyway, I didn't video anything about the reassembly up until now because my schedule was really busy. So here are the high points. The setting lever hardware was surprisingly complicated. Installing the gears and their cock wasn't too bad, but one setting gear, has a spring underneath it that elevates the gear when the retaining cock plate is shifted to position a larger opening over the gear, meaning the horizontal movement of the setting lever causes a horizontal movement in a different direction of the cock, the retaining plate, which then causes a vertical movement of this gear, which then alters the connection of the keyless works to the dial gears. Check out this action. Wow. I thought the regulator gauge was just movement adornment, but after I cleaned it, I discovered that it's actually an integral part of the regulator. The gauge assembly was frozen in place when it was dirty and I disassembled the watch. This little star, in fact, has a small pinion underneath it that attaches to teeth on the gauge. You move the regulator not by moving the regulator arm, but by turning this star, which then moves the regulator arm. Mounting the intermediate plate required the simultaneous seating of 5 pivots: center wheel, third wheel, fourth wheel, escape wheel, and the lever escapement. The lever escapement has to slide into a potence so that it connects with the balance wheel that's going to be mounted above it. So the intermediate plate must be tilted during installation to slide the escapement into the potence and then tilted back to be parallel with the main plate. And once again, I want to thank my friend Mark, who is user Mercurial2810, for warning me about this before I did the disassembly. Because you can cause damage, great damage, when you take the plate off if you're not aware of needing to tilt it to clear the setting lever. It's good to have smart friends. The commonly accepted advice is to invert the intermediate plate, put it on the bench, mount the wheels and escapement inverted on the inverted plate, and then mount the main plate, again inverted, to it. But I did okay using my microscope and seating the pins one at a time. I didn't mash down the plate. I applied slight pressure on each pin as I got it seated so the pivot remained at the edge of its jewel hole. And yes, I know that could cause the plate to not be planar with the other plate, with the main plate, but it all worked out here. Maybe it wouldn't be wise to do on a wristwatch, but for a big pocket watch, it went okay. So far, the lubrication has been uneventful. I had to redo 2 pivots because I applied too much oil. I used Rodico to wipe off the excess and pegwood to clean out the jewel holes. I know I should have disassembled the entire movement and re-cleaned it after the faulty oiling. I elected to not do that for a good reason. I'm going to disassemble and clean this pocket watch again in 3 months anyway. More on that in a couple of minutes. The entire movement is now 1,000,000 times cleaner than it was when I started, and it has a fresh, modern synthetic lubricants and a new alloy mainspring. So what doesn't it have? Well, it doesn't have a calibration of the side shake and end shake of each pivot. That's a bit beyond me right now. And it doesn't have an ultrasonic cleaning of the parts. I did it all manually. Now, I just got an ultrasonic cleaner as a basically gift from a classmate, which is really, really nice of him. And I'll use that for cleaning this the next time. And so speaking of which, I'm cleaning this again in 3 months because I know I'll have much better technique in everything that I do, especially in lubrication technique. So I'm going to strip it down again and clean it and reassemble it again. So my lubrication this time really has to be good for only 3 months. But I encountered a serious problem when I attempted to mount the balance assembly. After I installed the balance assembly, the balance wheel oscillated freely and it looked great, but without an audible tick-tock. I thought, that's weird. So I put the balance wheel under the microscope. Everything looked fine, and I didn't say, hey, wait a minute, where's the roller jewel? It was there when I disassembled the watch, and the watch ran correctly before I disassembled it. But now, the roller jewel is gone. What the heck? The jewel measures 0.48 millimeters by maybe 2 millimeters. And I should clarify this. Single roller balance staffs use a long jewel. And I'm so new to this, a total grasshopper, a total noob, that I'm embarrassed to admit I don't know how long a long jewel is. Just that it's called a long form of the roller jewel. My initial guess was that the roller jewel got dislodged during cleaning and it was long gone. Now, I didn't use isopropyl alcohol for cleaning. I used Roncinol, but if the shellac was degraded and the sloshing around maybe knocked the jewel out. But then I started reading online about roller jewels and how to measure, install, and test them. And I came upon an NAWCC forum message saying that it can sometimes fall out of very old watches, vintage watches, because the shellac is degraded and not holding it very well. And so the first thing you should do is shake out your movement, because maybe the jewel fell into the movement and you can recover it. And I thought, that's crazy. That's not going to be the case, but what the heck? So I went back to my bench, and I took the movement and I shook it upside down, and holy smokes, wouldn't you know it, I saw a little speck fall out of the movement. I put on my 3X loop and it was the roller jewel. Crazy. It was just sitting there on my workbench. So here are some images of it under the microscope. It looks like one end is cleaved off or certainly fractured and messy. My current theory is that maybe it fell out, got knocked out, pushed out, whatever, when I restarted the gear train. Why would it fall out now? I don't know. Maybe the cleaning and the sloshing around loosened it up a bit, and then I put it back in and started the gear train, and bang-o, the thing gets knocked out. It looks like my next steps will roughly be: 1, remove any remaining junk and jewel parts from the hole. 2, buy a replacement jewel. I could trust the online messages that I've read, which stated that the diameter is 0.048 millimeters, or I could measure the remains I have using an eyepiece reticle. Or I could measure the pallet lever fork distance and subtract 2/100ths of a millimeter. When the replacement jewels, and these things come in packs or bunches, you don't just buy one jewel, when they arrive, I'll have to determine which one is the correct length. By, I guess, repeated attempts to install it and using trial and error. That's going to be a learning process for me. 3, once all of that is done, I will have to shellac it into the mounting hole on the balance staff. This is way out of my comfort zone, but I'm really jazzed to go do it. I'm going to move forward on this. That's all I have for you today. Remember that age is just a number. Till next time, take care.